G'day guys, today I'm going to go through 5 tips that you can use when learning new songs and getting them gig ready. Let's get into it. Okay, so tip number 1 is to use your ear. When you're learning a new song, put it on and have a listen to it and try to work out the chord progression and the melody by ear. If you have some basic music theory under your belt, this won't be too difficult to do. You may have to resort to going to YouTube for the solo or for other parts of the song that you can't work out, but for the most part, it's very, very doable to learn a whole song by ear. Tip number 2 is to learn the guitar parts first. I'm not a multitasker, but I am a singer-guitarist. So for me, doing both at the same time can be quite challenging depending on the song. So I prefer to learn all of the guitar parts first and get them down. I want to be able to play that thing in my sleep on the guitar before I move on to the vocals. Sometimes it only takes 3 or 4 goes. Sometimes it might take a few days depending on the difficulty level of the song. But essentially that's what I will do. I will learn a guitar in that song down pat before I start on the vocals. Once I've got that down, I don't have to think about it. I can play it in my sleep, and then all my processing power can go into the actual vocals and the phrasing and the melody and whatnot. So learn the guitar parts first. Tip 3 is to set up as if you're at a gig. When you're practicing in your house, try to set up as much of your equipment as you can to make it as though you're at a gig. Have your microphone stand set up. If you're using an iPad, have it on the stand. Have your guitar effects in front of you. Maybe not your front of house speakers, they might be a bit loud for your neighbors. I just use a small Bose speaker when I'm practicing at home so I'm not too loud. But I want everything in front of me as if I'm playing at a gig. It just helps me feel more comfortable once I'm at the gig. Because I don't know about you, but when I play a new song that I've never played before in front of people live, it's really, really intimidating. I make sure that I know that song really, really well. And I also make sure that I'm comfortable in how I'm practicing that song. I want to make sure that I feel as though I'm at a gig. So when I do get to the gig and I am standing in front of the microphone and the iPad and my guitar effects, everything's accessible. I've been practicing that way, so it's going to go that way when I play. Okay, tip 4 kind of follows on from tip 3. They could have been put together. But tip 4 is to sing into a microphone when you're practicing. Maybe not at the start when you're just getting the guitar parts down and first learning the song, but when you're actually getting the song gig ready, sing into a microphone. Reason being, for me, is because I used to just sit back on the lounge and I would play the song and I'd look at my fingers, right? And then I would sing the song while looking at my fingers. And that was all great at home when I'm sitting on the lounge, but when I got to the gig thinking I had the song down, I'd start playing the song and sing into the microphone and realize I can't see my fingers. And if you're not that confident with the song, sometimes it can be a little bit intimidating, especially in front of a live audience. So if you practice the way you gig, you'll gig just fine. So set your microphone up, sing into the microphone while you're practicing and getting that song gig ready. And lastly, tip 5 is repetition, repetition, repetition. I can't stress this enough. You need to practice these songs over and over again. It might sound like common sense, but even if you think you've got the song down, you probably don't when you go to play it live in front of people, especially for the first time. So practice the songs over and over again. I usually set aside, depending on the song, of course, some songs are a lot quicker than others to learn. So if it's a basic song, I might practice it for the one day and I'm fine. But if it's a more complex song that has solos that I'm not very good at, I'll practice that song 5 or 6 times in one session, and then I'll put the guitar down, and then I'll come back later on and practice it another 5 or 6 times in that one session. I do this daily. If I'm learning 2 or 3 new songs, it's the same thing. I do each one 5 or 6 times, put the guitar down, and I'll come back later on and do the same thing again. Every day until I've nailed those songs and I'm playing them at the gig. I do not stop practicing until I'm playing them at the gig. So that's my last tip, is to actually repeat the songs over and over and over. Okay, so there you have it. 5 really, really basic tips on learning new songs and getting them gig ready. If you have some music theory under your belt, like I said before, this isn't a really hard thing to do. The songs are pretty easy to pick up these days, especially when you've been doing it for a while. I've been doing this for over 30 years. So when I hear a new song, I can almost tell you what key it's in and what the chords are just by listening to it on the radio. Knowing how to play a song and knowing how to play a song live in front of an audience are probably two different things. It can be quite intimidating to be on stage playing in front of people. So it's really important that you know those songs inside and out so that you're not too stressed when you get up on stage and you're not panicking thinking you're going to forget words or forget sections of the song. You've got enough on your plate already being so nervous when you get on stage. You need to have everything down perfectly before you get up there. It's going to make the job so much easier when you are performing live in front of people. This is Afterthought Shane here, and I just thought I'd chime in and talk about the differences between having a song gig ready or just having a jam. Music is fun, and although this video may come across reasonably serious, I'm talking about a gig where you're being paid by a venue to entertain patrons at that venue. And if you're being paid to do a job, then you should be putting 110% effort in, which means having your songs rehearsed and having everything perfect. I mean, there's going to be mistakes, obviously, but you're trying to do the best you can. Whereas if you're going to an open mic or having a jam with somebody, it doesn't really matter. You don't need to practice. You can just have a jam. It's still fun. It's fun either way. But when you're being paid to do a job, then just my opinion, I think you should be doing the best that you can for that money you're being paid. If you like what you're hearing, like, subscribe, and we'll see you again soon.